Welcome to the Sleep Dives channel. Have you ever stopped to wonder why we almost always pick the easy way out, even when we have the best intentions? Well, we're diving into James Clear's workbook for atomic habits to get to the bottom of it. We're going to explore this really fundamental rule of human behavior he calls the law of least effort, and we'll see how you can harness it, not just to build good habits, but to make getting rid of bad ones, well, almost effortless. So let's get right into it.
So, this big question. Why do we always seem to choose the easy path? Is it some kind of character flaw? Are we just lazy? The book suggests no, it's neither of those things. It's actually something way deeper, something that's literally hardwired into our nature.
And the answer is what James Clear calls the law of least effort. You see, our brains are basically energy-saving machines. They are fundamentally wired to conserve every little bit of energy they can. Now, this isn't a moral failing, not at all. It's just biology. It's an instinct for efficiency. And once you really get this, really get it, it becomes the absolute key to designing habits that work with your nature instead of constantly fighting it.
All right, section 1, the law of least effort. And the big idea here is how to make good habits the path of least resistance. So, if we know our brains are always looking for the easy route, then the smartest play really is to make our good habits the most convenient path available. It's all about reducing friction. Think about it. Instead of trying to force a huge boulder uphill every single day, why not just change the slope so it rolls downhill on its own?
And this quote from the book really hits the nail on the head. Our habit is an obstruction to what we want. It becomes crucial to make the habit easy. This is such a powerful way to look at it, right? We're not doing a habit just for the sake of it. We're doing it to get a result. The habit is just the car that gets us there. And if that car is clunky and hard to drive, well, you're probably just going to abandon the trip. The takeaway is crystal clear. Make the process as easy as you possibly can.
So, what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, it all comes down to reducing friction in your environment. For example, joining a gym that's right on your daily commute, that takes way less mental effort than dragging yourself to one across town. Or how about prepping healthy meals in advance? That completely removes the friction of having to cook from scratch when you're tired. It's all these little tweaks that make the good choice the easiest choice.
And we can take this idea of environmental design even further with something called priming your environment. The idea is simple. Dedicate each space to its real purpose and get it ready for the next activity. So let's say you want to start jogging in the morning. Don't just think about it. The night before, literally lay out your running shoes, your clothes, everything, right where you can't miss them. What you're doing is creating this super obvious cue and getting rid of all that friction of fumbling around for your gear when you're still half asleep. You just get up and go.
Okay, next up, the 2-minute rule. This is all about how to overcome procrastination and build momentum. But what about those days, the ones, where even the tiniest action just feels like a massive effort? That feeling of being completely overwhelmed is like a superhighway to procrastination. Well, James Clear has a brilliant solution for this. You shrink the starting line until it's so easy to cross, you can't not do it. And that, my friends, is the 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule is it's genius because it's so simple. Here's the deal. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. This becomes what Clear calls a gateway habit. So read every day turns into read one page. Go for a run becomes put on my running shoes. And look, the point isn't to achieve your massive goal in 2 minutes. The point is to master the art of just showing up. Because let's be honest, that is always the hardest part.
And you can see exactly how this works in practice right here. Look at the very easy column. That's your 2-minute gateway habit. Put on running shoes. Read one page. That's it. That's your entire focus. Once that becomes automatic, then moving to the easy column, walk twice around the block, it just feels like a natural next step. You're building momentum, you're scaling up gradually, and you're doing it all without that horrible, overwhelming friction at the start.
This whole process has a name. It's called habit shaping. You kick things off with that super simple 2-minute habit, and then, very slowly, you start to dial up the difficulty. This vegan example is a perfect illustration. You don't just decide to become vegan and flip a switch overnight. No, you master one small change, like eating vegetables at each meal. Once that's locked in, you move to the next step, and then the next. Each one builds on the last.
Okay, let's move on to something that might be even more powerful. Making good habits inevitable by using one-time actions to automate your success. Think about that.
What if you could make one single choice, right now, that pretty much guarantees you'll behave well in the future? These are one-time actions that basically automate your habits for you. They lock in your success and take willpower almost completely out of the equation.
And just look at some of these powerful one-time actions. Setting up an automatic deduction for your savings? That takes what, 5 minutes? But it pays off for years. Buying a great mattress is a one-time decision that makes good sleep the default option every single night. See, these aren't things you have to do every day. They are single choices that reshape your environment so that success becomes, well, pretty much inevitable.
So up until now, we've been all about reducing friction to make good habits inevitable. But this law works in reverse too, which is just as powerful. To make bad habits impossible, you flip the script. You don't try to find more willpower, you just add more friction. You want to create a path of most resistance for all those behaviors you're trying to stop.
Right. So this brings us to making bad habits impossible. And the secret weapon here is the power of adding friction. This is basically the inversion of everything we've talked about. It's about strategically making your bad habits more difficult, more inconvenient. Because the more effort a bad habit takes, the less likely you are to actually do it. It's a really simple idea, but boy, is it effective.
And the main tool you'll use to add all this friction is something called a commitment device. So what is it? A commitment device is a choice you make in the present that controls your actions in the future. It's basically a way to lock in your future self when you're thinking clearly, leveraging all your good intentions before temptation even has a chance to show up and mess things up.
And here are some brilliant, practical examples of these commitment devices. Paying for your gym membership for the whole year up front, that makes the pain of wasting that money way higher, so you're more likely to go. Leaving your phone in a completely different room when you need to focus, that adds the physical friction of having to get up and walk over there every time you want to check it. Even something as simple as unplugging the TV and putting it in a closet after you use it adds just enough effort to stop you from mindlessly flicking it back on.
Okay, let's pull all of this together into your action plan so you can start applying these principles today. We've covered a lot, right? We've talked about reducing friction for good habits, starting tiny with the 2-minute rule, and then adding friction to get rid of the bad ones. So the big question is, how do we actually put this all together into a plan you can use right now?
Here you go, your 3-step action plan. It's really this simple. Step 1, redesign your environment. Just look around and ask yourself, what's one little barrier I can remove to make this good habit easier? Step 2, apply the 2-minute rule. Pick one habit you want to build and shrink it all the way down to its simplest starting point. And finally, step 3, add friction to bad habits. Find one bad habit and identify one single one-time action you can take to make it harder to do. That's the whole game plan.
And really, if you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. It's not about radical transformation. It's about intelligent design. Building better habits is not about some heroic act of willpower. It's not about forcing yourself through pain. It's about becoming the architect of your own life. It's about, finally, working with your human nature instead of always fighting against it.
And so, that brings us to one final question for you to really think about. Forget about some grand plan for next year or even next month. Just focus on this week. What is one tiny barrier you can remove? And what is one small barrier you can add this week? Just one of each, because that right there, that's where everything begins.